Alright, as far as multiplication is concerned, we're on section 1.3 now. I do think it is helpful to learn your basic multiplication table. You can see this is just one example of a multiplication table that I pulled this from the book. How this would work is, if to fill this out, you'd say, well, 1 times 2 is 2, 7 times 2 is 14, 5 times 2 is 10. Now here was 8, here's an 18. The numbers here are jumbled a little bit, so you don't just start following patterns. You have to actually think about what all the multiplications are. It's probably a good practice to go fill out one of these things. And if there are these small multiplications, it looks like these just go a 1 through 9. If you have trouble with any of those, I would recommend practicing your multiplication just a little bit, your times tables. I do allow the calculator, of course, in this class, but it can be really time consuming if you have to go to the calculator for every single calculation. Your brain is actually a lot faster in some ways at doing this. Just the taking the time to input it into the calculator, that's a bunch of additional time there. And then there's also the problem with you're more likely to make mistakes if you're constantly taking your eyes off the page and going to your calculator and then back to the page and then back to the calculator. There's disadvantages to using the calculator. So that's where learning some basic times tables or being proficient in your basic times tables would be good. But other than that, something like 43 times 5, this is big enough where, yeah, I suppose you could do this one fairly easily in your head, but 43 times 5, there you go, you just type it in. And I don't know, I don't even care about doing that multiplication, but I will anyway. Just type it in, and we get 47,415. You'll notice that with multiplication, if I switch it around and type it in the other order, these do work, or it's the same thing. I just pointed out with subtraction that you cannot do that. It gives you a different number. It turns out with addition and multiplication, it does work. So if I was to do 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6 versus 4, 5, 6 plus 1, 2, 3, swapping those two numbers around, you can see I get the same thing, and that's not just a coincidence. It's not something about those numbers that I picked. This actually has a specific name. It's called commutative property. You don't really need to know what it's called, other than just knowing that you can swap around addition, you can swap around multiplication, and you get the same thing. You'll notice, I guess another thing I should point out, I'm using the asterisk on the, because I typed this in on my keyboard. That's a common symbol that's used to represent multiplication, fairly common, especially if you're typing things in on your calculator, or on your keyboard rather. The asterisk is located above the 8 on your keypad, or above your normal keyboard, or there's also an asterisk over on the keypad if you have a 10 key area.